or that solves their problem or that is entertaining. So if you just write with that in mind, you're going to hit a lot of the major SEO components without even knowing you're doing it. So yeah, write to solve problems, write to meet needs, write as yourself, share of your own stories. Like all of these things can really help just generate that reader interest.
Welcome back to Wisdom Journey, the podcast where we unpack strategies and stories to help you grow your influence and impact. I'm your host, Wisdom Okonkwo, and today I'm honored to introduce a guest who has mastered the art of turning ordinary blog posts into powerful client-attracting machines. Joining us is Jon Clemens, founder of Cedar Press Proofreading and top-rated Upwork freelancer with a flawless 100% job success score. Since 2021, has edited and written for over 20 companies, ghostwritten newsletters reaching hundreds of thousands of readers, and built an agency that elevates business authority through impeccably crafted content. Jon's here to share his proven techniques for revitalizing stale blogs, boosting conversions with expert editing, and transforming your written content into your most reliable marketing assets. Whether you're struggling with grammar and style or aiming to skyrocket your search ranking, Jon has the insights you need. Hello, good morning.
Oh, good. It's nighttime here. So it's
Yeah,
morning
this
where
is
you're at.
3:31 a.m.
Wait, 3:30 in the morning?
Yeah.
Are you
I'm
serious?
serious.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Good for you.
How you doing? Where are you calling from? I'm calling from Nigeria. Where are you calling from?
Wow. Okay. West Coast of the United States. So it's 7:30 at night here.
7:30 p.m. Wow.
Yeah.
Thanks for accepting the invitation to be on my podcast. I know something was kind of happening over on your end. It took you some time to respond when I reached out.
I just missed it. I just flat out missed it, man. It's just my fault. I just didn't see it. So I'm the problem.
I feel like we're having a relationship breakup. So it's not your fault. I am the problem. I have some issues to deal with.
Yeah.
That's why I do the follow up, because it happens to me too. Sometimes I open the message and I'm like, okay, I'm going to respond. And before you know, other things just happen to my mind, and that's it. And so I have to follow up, especially when I see that they've read the message. But if they've not read the message, I wait for them to, whenever they come to the platform, you see the message and they respond. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
You have a great setup right there. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. I notice you're a host of a podcast, and this is before we even start this podcast. This is me just reaching out to you to say that I'd love to have you come talk about your podcast story on my other podcast, and I'll reach out to you via that podcast on Podmatch, of course. But I'm just telling you beforehand. Yeah,
sure, you bet.
Okay. You ready? Yeah.
Okay. I think I'm ready.
Tell us your name and and what you do.
Yeah. So my name is Jon Clemens, and I do a lot of things actually, but they all kind of the umbrella, right? The big idea is content creation. So I'm an editor, and I'm a writer, and I'm a podcaster. So basically, whether people need help getting what they've written across the finish line, like cleaning it up, making it look nice, or if they just need me to write something for them, I can do that. Or if they need someone, if they are looking to come on to show and get a little bit more PR, I do that as well. So yeah, basically it's all about helping people, create things, write things, get their message out to the world.
Can you tell us a bit of how you moved from corporate life to becoming the proofreader, podcaster, editor, agency owner? And
Yeah. So I spent 15 years in the corporate world. And then during COVID, so I don't know how good or bad COVID was where you were. It was pretty terrible where we were. And so I ended up losing my job because of COVID, because of the economic issues. But it ended up being good because I did not want to go back I didn't want to go back to an office. I didn't want to work in the career that I'd been working in. I was ready to do anything at all besides that. So getting let go actually helped. It forced me to really sit back and say, what do I want to do? What do I enjoy doing? What provides value to people? What aligns with my values? What will people pay me to do? Right. That's a big one. And so, that's how I got started. I was in a position where I just said, okay, what do I want the second half of my life to look like? And so as a 40-year-old in the middle of a pandemic, I started over in a brand new career. And I started on Upwork, which is like a freelancer site. It's a place where you can go, get jobs as a freelancer. Just doing very basic proofreading, just for a very minimal amount of money. But I got my foot in the door, and I slowly grew and grew and grew. And as I grew and did more things, and got myself out there more, I had more opportunities. And as I took more opportunities, I got to learn new skills, and as I got new skills, that led to more new opportunities. And as a result, here for about 5 years later, I edit, I write, I host a podcast, and I enjoy it. I'm looking
Living
forward
the
to the next
dream.
5 years.
Yeah. For me, I feel like everyone has that time where, there's this thing you always wanted to do, but then for some reason something just happens that kind of like plunges you into the deep, and you're like, oh, okay, yeah. I mean, if not for COVID and all losing
Yeah.
the job and all that, I mean, yeah, it's not really one of those things we need someone to, like, how they give you, how you might be falling asleep, and you're just walking, and then they just hot slap jots you back into reality. Okay, what's going on? What's going on? And yeah. And at that point in time, it's a terrible experience. But in the long run, like, yeah, I'm happy that did happen.
Yeah, and you know what? I mean, I actually listened to one of your podcasts, one of your solo episodes right before you jumped on, about how if you're a content creator, you just need to
Oh
get out and
yeah,
create and just do it, just start doing it, right? And I resonate with that, because that's what I needed, that slap in the face. I was afraid, Wisdom. I was afraid to step out. I'll admit it. And so, I was forced in that position by being laid off, to where I had
yeah,
no choice but to step out and create and fail in public. And so
yeah.
that's the route that I chose. So I resonate with what you were saying in your
Thank you so
episode
much.
on
Yeah,
that.
I mean, it was, the way I approach content, and it might be different for you, but I tend to, like, because I make stuff that I would want to listen to, and then I put it out there in the world. That way, whether someone listens to it or not, I get value from it. Sometimes when I'm discouraged, I feel like, oh, I just go, I play some of my episodes. I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, young man, you need to start following your advice, and that's
Yeah,
it. And
excellent.
and I this is, thank God you're a content creator and a podcaster too. This is something that you would understand. Sometimes people make content and stuff that, it's just for making sake. It's not, they would not want to consume that stuff. And I'm like, why are you doing this? Like, making it in itself is hard. It's like just producing stuff like a machine. It's not like, oh yeah, I made an episode that I would love to listen to if someone made it.
Yeah, that's how I feel about writing, to be honest with you. So everything that I write, I try to make it helpful. Like, I want you to read my blog or my newsletter and walk
Okay.
away with something. Like, you're now a better person, right? Because you're right. I could just write a bunch of stuff, but why? How
Yeah.
would I do that?
And I want to, something has changed in the world in the past from 2019, and that is like ChatGPT, AI, all the LLMs out there, and
Hmm.
proofreading. Also, how has that affected the proofreading? The editing. Of course, writing itself is one thing that would always be core of what we do, right? It's what we always run society, but the editing
Yeah.
itself, like, how has that changed or affected the industry?
It has, yeah, it has changed. I think that it had, I wish I could say that it wasn't true, but I think that it is. I do believe that AI has eaten into my industry. I do believe I'm losing clients to AI. Um, I just read an article today from a professional editor who went and tested a bunch of AI agents, and like, okay, here's a story. I'm gonna have all these different AIs copy edit this short story and see what the pros and cons are. She found out it was a mixed bag. It does some things well, and it does other things not so well. So it's hard to compete if it's hard to win business when people they care about fast and
Mm,
cheap. I'm never going to beat ChatGPT on fast and cheap. I can beat ChatGPT on quality. So if I can find people who value quality, then we'll get along just fine. But and maybe I would never get the fast and cheap people anyway. But So I'm not trying to say like don't use ChatGPT. I used it, but the quality is not as good at proofreading or copy editing as a human
Yeah,
being.
right.
It's
Now
just
that you
not.
say that, the things that are running through my head is, I mean, the people that would want to get the service of someone to proofread their work, it's not. I don't think, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think it's, oh, I just wrote 4 lines of my thoughts right this evening, and I'm like, yeah, I should I proofread to proofread my 4 lines or 4 paragraph of thoughts, and do that. No, it's more like someone wants to put out a book, right, to the world, and they're like, this work represents me. This work has my name on it, and there are people, believe it or not, that have this standard. They don't encourage mediocrity, right? They don't like it, right? They try everything in their power
Yeah.
to intentionally not be mediocre, right? So they're like, this stuff has my name to it. I don't want it to have some, this stuff like that. I want it to be like the top notch standard. And yeah, those are the kind of person like, yeah, someone who's into the industry should handle that and figure that stuff out. And then they're like, yeah, I'll pay you to do that. Can you
Uh-oh,
hear
looks
me?
like we're frozen. I don't know if you can hear me or
Can you
not,
hear
but
me?
you're frozen.
I can hear you in, I don't know what's happening. And so they'll need someone to actually edit the work.
Yeah, actually, I had a story. That might help if I could tell a story about kind of one of my own clients.
Please do.
Um, I have a client. Yeah, I have a client who they help companies or online business owners sell their business. So that's what they do. As part of that, they have a bunch of documentation that goes with any kind of a sale, like a listing. They have a listing and they have like a client interview and a bunch of stuff. Someone has to look at all that stuff and make sure it's okay. So that's what I do as an editor. So when they send out an email to their list of potential buyers, it's in each and every contract that the name of the company will not be made public via the email or on their website. That's part of the NDA, the non-disclosure agreement.
Oh, and
Oh,
like,
yeah.
oh,
So,
yeah, I see where the
yeah,
story is going.
yeah. So now imagine if you have a company and you signed an
Mistakenly.
NDA
Ah,
and you had let
mistakenly.
ChatGPT, right? Let
Ah,
ChatGPT be your editor. Do you trust it to make sure to
ah,
find every single instance of that company's name to keep it out of the email?
ah. I mean, in that
I
situation,
don't.
the thing is, we need, because a lot will go wrong. Someone, heads will need to roll where that kind of thing happens. Like, that's a huge mistake that nobody wants to make. And you want to have someone that say, this is in your hands. And yeah, and because ChatGPT doesn't really understand the severity of this situation. That's, oh, John, this stuff is serious. A lot's going to happen. We're going to get a lawsuit of this and this and this, and we might even go bankrupt. Please, if you know that you're not going to get this job done in 1 week, don't submit anything. Take 2 weeks. When you realize that with this stuff I'm working on, you're like, oh, everything is short out. You just focus and you're working on it. And yeah, yeah, I
So yeah,
see
and
it.
that's not
Yeah,
that's not something you want to give to ChatGPT. I'm here to tell you, like I wouldn't trust it with that.
I've been there. I've been there. I'm like, oh, ChatGPT,
Yeah,
put this. And then the next thing ChatGPT crafts a custom email for you. And then the next thing you're about to send him and you start saying, hi, guest name. Like it put guest name. And,
yeah,
and like, the ChatGPT, this was not the arrangement. I told you to put the person's name in the email. Why are you? And you're like, okay,
yes.
you start editing and stuff like that. And yeah, that's true. Uh, you're a blogger, and the blogging industry has changed over the years. There was a time where we used to rake in a lot of traffic from SEO, but now those were the good old days. So, so for someone
Yeah.
who's blogging now, what could we do differently, to still get eyeballs in front of our content?
It's kind of funny. It's because so much of online content now is written by AI and it's very clearly, evidently written by AI. Uh, that I think number one, writing it yourself is going to immediately get more people's attention because I don't know about you, this could just be me. When I click on a blog or a website and I see that it's clearly AI generated text, I stop what I'm doing, I hit the back button and I go somewhere else because I don't want to read that. Like if you don't care enough to write it, I don't care enough to read it. Like I'll be honest, that's how I kind of come down. So I think just doing it yourself, and yes, you can use an AI to help with the brainstorming and the organization.
Yeah,
That's fine, but making sure this is something that you wrote from your heart can help Making sure that you do things like sprinkle in stories, right? Stories are like hardwired in our DNA. So if you can grab someone with a good story and bring him in, like I did with you with my story about the NDA, right? In ChatGPT, like
Yeah.
you were like, oh my gosh, I know, I know where this is going, right? I got you in with that. So like telling stories, engaging your personality, right? These things can help people, once they get to your site, stay connected and stay engaged. And as far as SEO goes, it's tough because of the AI searches and results and
Yeah.
all of that. But the best thing I can tell an aspiring writer is Google wants to send people to content that answers their question or that solves their problem or that is entertaining. So if you just write with that in mind, you're going to hit a lot of the major SEO components without even knowing you're doing it. So yeah, write to solve problems, write to meet needs, uh, write as yourself, share of your own stories. Like all of these things can really help just generate that reader interest.
Yeah. 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 I mean, the industry is changing, but people, I think the era of commoditized, garbage in, garbage out content, where you mass produce 1,000 articles on your site, that era is gone. Like people want thoughts, new ideas. People want something that challenges the status quo, something different, something that, oh yeah, yeah, that's true, that's brilliant. I never thought of that before, right? Not just of course you could write how to tie a tie. I mean, yeah, that's valuable. I mean, yeah, but nobody wants to. I don't see myself in that kind of blog. Nah, 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 nah. No, instead I want to
Yeah.
see, okay, how to how to prepare yourself in a way such that AI doesn't overtake your job. Yeah, I want to read that kind of article, right? Yeah, thought leadership. People putting ideas, putting um um your stories and things into the blog post, not just how to be a marketer in 7 steps. I mean, yeah, but it's not like there's anything wrong with that topic. But I mean, people need the idea itself that you're writing should be different. It should be connected to you. It should be uniquely yours. That's what I think, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. For those of us that are podcasters and video YouTubers and all that, writing is an important process. But how do we integrate it into we do video. It's not like we're bloggers. We're not that. How does writing come into our workflow?
Yeah, that's a great question. It kind of depends on what you want to do, but at the very least, you're probably writing social media posts to promote your blog or not your blog, excuse me, your podcast. So at least social media posts you will be writing. Um, so that's an aspect that you can work on because it is tough. It's tough to get people to stop the scroll and to write something eye catching that people will go, oh, wait a second, let me read this a little bit more detail. And again, we're right back to starting with a story or starting with a hook of some kind. Another good tip for social media, and this is a really simple one. Whatever you write out your social media post. And then every 1 or 2 sentences, just hit enter twice to give yourself some extra white space.
Yeah.
That alone, I'm serious, that alone will get you more views because who wants to read a wall of text? Nobody wants to read a wall of text. So like there's a lot of simple things you can do. But then another thing that I've kind of messed around with, I should probably dive more into. I actually take my podcasts that I do and I put them into an AI assisted database and then I have it write me an outline for a 500-word blog post. So I'm still writing the post. It's still in my voice and I get to make the final editorial decisions, but I'm just having it help me to go through that conversation, kind of structure it for a longer blog post, pull out some quotes where applicable, and then that kind of just saves me that 2 hours of listening to it 4 times, right? And then from there you can take that and you can, write a blog post. You can write a synopsis for an email newsletter. You can use it to create your show notes for your YouTube channel. So there's a lot of ways that writing could be incorporated into your podcast and your marketing. It really depends on what you want to focus on and do. But yeah, social media, blog posts, newsletters, emails, There's a lot that can be done.
Yeah. Because when I ask the question, I'm more like writing from an idea, right? Because that's like the core part. Like, I mean, of course, you need to edit those show notes, but generally, I've prompted the AI, and then it takes my episodes and then writes the show notes, and then I get to edit it. Right? I don't like listen to the episode and then try to like nah. I'm like seriously.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I
And
mean, the
yeah.
idea, the raw idea. I have this idea. Like that's the part I'm talking about.
Oh, as far as like how to get ideas.
More like okay, it would be nice if you told us how to get ideas, but I'm more like writing from an idea concepts, right? Like starting everything we do from writing itself, like writing as a starting point. Like the podcast, it comes from like I have an idea, I write it out in flesh, in more like a very micro essay, and then I go record a podcast episode on it. I have an idea, I write it as a micro essay, and then I do a YouTube video. As a starting point. That's what I'm talking about.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, that's definitely, so I'm a little bit different, I think. Maybe I'm not understanding, but so I have an interview based like this one. All of my podcasts are interview based. So I wouldn't necessarily start with an idea as much as I would start with researching my guest. But yeah, if you did have an idea, you could still do the same idea. You could still do the same thing. You still have to plot it out. You still have to organize it. You still have to think about, okay, what's my opener? What's my hook? What are my stories? Are there some stats that I can pull that are interesting that can keep people's attention? And then really, honestly, the big thing in our space is always going to be the call to action, right? Like, what am I writing for? What am I podcasting for? I want the listener, the reader to do something. So if you can think about that at the beginning and kind of work backwards, that's a great way to approach it as well. Just okay, what's the next step I want people to take after they listen or read me? Okay, let's start with that and then build from there.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I one of the things I love is the fact that you're a writer, you're a proofreader, and you're an editor, right? And so I would love for you to share some of like your checklist for editing, because I feel that even though it's a checklist for editing blog posts, it is something that we could also apply to the podcast episode if you're doing solo episode interviews, the YouTube videos and other forms of content. Like I'm just thinking, but I don't know. Maybe what you have in your checklist might be different from some of the stuff I have in my head.
Yeah. Well, it's funny you should mention that because I actually do sell a book on my website. And it is the checklist. It tells you the checklist. It tells you exactly how to edit your own work, just like I do it as a professional. So like that resource is there. But just to give you the high points, some of the things that, and these all probably sound super basic. I don't know, but they're very important. First of all, write your first draft. Don't edit while you write your first draft because you'll never finish if you do that. So it's more important to get it out on paper and then refine it as
Okay.
opposed to trying to make sure every sentence is correct as you type it. You'll never get done. But once your first draft is out, first of all, if you can step away for a little bit, that helps to kind of cleanse your mind, your mental palate, to kind of come at it with a fresh start. So if you can step away for some time, that helps. And then what I do is honestly, I start reading through it and I'm just looking for what are the words that I don't know how to spell 100% accurately. Even if I'm 99% sure that word is correct and there's that one little percent, then I stop and I look it up. And that's even for words that I've seen a million times and I still don't know how to spell them because yes, that still happens even to editors. So if I see the word bureaucracy, I have to just stop and look it up because I don't know how to spell that word. And the same would apply for anything else, like any kind of grammar stuff. Just read through it and go, okay, am I certain this is correct or do I have a question? And if I have a question, stop and look it up. And you go through the whole document, you do that. And then here's the trick that really helps is read it backwards, not word for word, but sentence by sentence or paragraph by paragraph. So start at the bottom and go back up because what that does is it divorces your mind from the fact that you're reading an article and you're much more focused on the words. And what you'll find is when you read it down and then read it back up again, you'll find that extra 20% of mistakes you missed the first time around because you're now focusing on the words themselves instead of the flow of thought. So those are some highlights of just some of the ways that I, edit a document.
Yeah. Right now, I'm at the point where writing for me is thinking, right? And when you talk about the first draft, and I think it's one thing that holds a lot of persons when it comes to creating content, video, podcast, episodes, and all that. They have this idea, but they don't even know what to say. What they like when they start recording the episode, that's their first attempt at making that episode. And so what they say is they say absolute trash.
Yeah.
But then when you write a first draft, the idea starts to form. Right? Sometimes it takes you 2, 3 days, you come back to the first draft, say, oh yeah, I should start the intro like this. And now when you talking about it, you're so eloquent, you dive in deep into the idea, and people are like, but you don't use a script. Well, how come you don't use a script? It's because I already wrote the idea down. Now it's fully formed for me. And so expressing it is a piece of cake. Can you
Yeah.
hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I can. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I actually
So
agree with you. So actually, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I've got some, like sometimes I preach at my church. And so the same thing, right? Like you write the sermon out, at least this is how we do it here. I don't know how you do it there, but you write the sermon out and you go through it 2 or 3 times, you really massage it, and then you practice it 2 or 3 times. So by the time you get up in front of everyone, like you said, it's internalized. Now I can give it instead of reading it or thinking about it. So that's, I think for like a podcaster doing like a solo episode, yes, if you can get to the internalized state, yeah, you're gonna have a much better outcome.
Yeah. Yeah. I know we've been talking about content creation, editing, and then probably, it's a business. It could be all that. But I just want us for a couple of minutes just to focus on writing as a form of thinking.
Yeah, I mean that's how I think. I don't know if you're the same way, but because someone the other day asked me, they said, "Well, can't you take like a video recording and start with that as a draft and write from there?" And I said, "Yeah, you
What
could."
am I going to say in the video recording?
I don't know. I mean, but so some people though, like some people talk their thoughts out. Some people think by talking. It sounds like you aren't that way. I'm not that way. So to your point, yes, part of the why, the big why behind why I like to write is because I want to know what I'm thinking. And that's how I do it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And that I don't know, but I've noticed that most of the writers, they most of the like the great thinkers in the world, they're actually writers. I don't know if you've noticed. Like, of course, it's not a
Yeah.
statistics, but it's just like a pattern. You notice that most of the people that are like great thinkers of centuries, of a generation, they were actually writers.
Yeah. I mean, I totally agree with that. Now, and now part of it is because we didn't have YouTube until 2007. So maybe that's part of it. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. There's a thing it does. Apart from finding errors, spelling, and all that, sometimes you write an idea down, and then you're reading it. You're like, did I say that? No, 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 no. That's not what I meant. Like, I mean, that idea is nice, but I don't stand for that stuff. Like, slash it out. It sounds stupid now that I read it out. Yeah, and
Yeah.
you really get to like really form it out. Such that when you're saying but it sounds as if you know you playing out a recording, and people are wondering what's going on.
Yeah, that's not great. And then I don't know how you feel about it, but also it's the same way for me if I read something that I wrote 2 years ago or 3 years ago, and I go and I say, "Oh, I
Oh.
wouldn't. That was terrible. I would totally write it differently now."
Yeah. And I don't know if you've noticed it, but if I pick any of my drafts from maybe 3, 4 years ago, the moment I read the first 2 lines, immediately I remember everything I wrote in that work. Like it's not like I remember it word for word, but like I just kind of like know that this is what I wrote and this is what I said in it. And that for me makes the idea even stickier more. Now, of course, most of my I'm not those are my previous work, and I'm not going to say that they were early days. I didn't know as much as I knew now, and they were humble beginnings.
Yeah.
Sometimes I read the work and I begin to wonder. I'm like, dude, what are you thinking?
Yeah, but that's how you grow, though, man. That's how you know you're going somewhere.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Writing again and again and again. And then you go back and you're like, oh, wow, yeah, this was one of the thoughts I was thinking about. And that for me, it's a practice that nobody really does that often. It's rare to see someone who says like, oh, I write, right? Except I'm not talking about professional, like, oh, this is one of the things I sit down, I spend about 20 to 30 minutes and I just write things down, right? And because the world is so busy, there's no time to think anymore. You're from one thing to another before you know you like. And so when do we spend time to like think and uh, well, I mean
Yeah, I'm glad to know that that's happening in your part of the world too. I thought it was just our part of the world.
yeah, and the next thing you start seeing men people turn to what do you call it now? The word okay, what's the word? More like zombies, where you whatever they say in the news or the stuff, that's what they yeah, that's the thing. And you then ask them, okay, why do you think that stuff? No, that's the stuff. No, no, no,
Yeah.
I know you said that's the stuff. Like, but why? Like, why? Tell me about this. Why do you think this? Make me understand. I want to see what you have to say about this. No, no, no. And you just realize that they don't even know why they stand for what they stand for, why they believe what they believe, why they even saying that this person is a bad person or this person is a good person. Like, and I'm just talking about, persons, but even ideas, philosophies, they don't even know. It's because this big person said that thing and now they're saying it. But when you spend time to say, okay, oh, some of your beliefs, write it down and say, okay, why do I believe this stuff? Now, of course, I know people say, but it's content creation. But when you spend time and say, okay, I love this. Why do I love this?
You
You'll be
know, that's so
surprised.
important. Yeah. Yeah. And I think, I mean, yes, we have those people here too. And it's hard, but I mean, why? I love that you bring this up because why is such an important question. Why do I believe this? Why am I acting this way? Why do I get up every day? Like these are incredibly important questions that we do need to ask. And I probably don't ask them enough of my own self. So like you're challenging me right now because I'm sitting here going, I could do better at that actually.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Sometimes I just feel that the brief time we have to think, to actually shut down everything and just think for a moment and just contemplate. And I'm not talking about worrying, right? It's probably when we're sitting on
Yeah.
the white seat.
Yeah.
And even at times,
Yeah.
most people they go with their phones, and even that time that's supposed to be like 2, 3 minutes, 5 minutes of quiet time is actually spent on the phone scrolling through TikTok and YouTube, and so there's actually no
Yeah.
time for you to say, okay, yeah, that's true. What am I going? What am I even doing with my life?
You're
Yeah.
absolutely right, man. And I'm as guilty as anybody. You're challenging me, man. I've got to make some changes now.
Yeah, because it's easy for those of us that create content that write to say, oh, I'm a writer, I do that stuff. Most of the times when we're writing, we have it's like we're either writing for clients, we're writing to produce content on. So it's not actually free time for us to like say, just think about what we want to think or say, what is the thing that I'm curious about right now? What excites me right now? What do I want to talk about? And you know, it's just there. And before we know, we start to
Yeah.
even forget why we believe the things we believed in the first place.
Yeah. Do you know what's hard for me? That's similar to this. Because I think it ties in is reading. So after I've edited for 6 hours, I do not want to read another book for a while, right? Like I'm done with reading, but which is a shame because reading's so awesome and I have all these books that I want to read, but I just like my eyes are tired, like they're physically tired. Same thing
Yeah.
with the writing, right? Like you said, I've written for a client all day and now it's like the last thing I want to do is write some more. I want to watch YouTube, darn it, so
Uh,
I'm trying to figure out a solution to that and you're challenging me. I really appreciate it. I really do. This is really good. But I don't have an answer yet. I don't know. Maybe you do, but I
yeah.
don't.
Yeah. I perfectly understand what you do. Sometimes I record because I have a couple of podcasts, right? Where I have sometimes I have guests back to back, and after doing those interviews, like 5, 6, 7 guests, right? Back to back from different parts of the world, complete strangers that I've never met before, and I talk with them for like 1 hour, 30 minutes. And when I'm done with the interview, the last thing I want to do is have a conversation with someone. Like I just want to be in my space. I just want to like have my own quiet, my own me time, and yeah. Like so when you talk about that writing aspect, I totally understand it. Like you're like, I need a break. I need a break right now. But then the thing it was actually the work, right? It's not your own thing. It's not
Yeah,
your
and I
not
found
not
too,
your own
yeah.
thing. Yeah.
And I found too that when I do overcome those um, objections I give to myself, and I do pick up that book, or I do start to do something creative, whether it's writing or playing my guitar or whatever, like it fills me up. Like it really is the better choice. But it's
Yeah.
overcoming that hurdle, right? That's the tough
Yeah.
part.
Yeah. I feel like when you watch movie for like when your job is to watch movies, like let's say you are trying to like let's say you are the morality police, right? You're trying to watch the movies and see do they have anything on this movie that we're supposed to like and you're like analyzing the movies, right? Like I feel like that itself might rob you of the gifts to enjoy a movie, to just like put on the movie on the screen and actually enjoy it and say watch the movie without actually say, oh, they did this thing, oh, they did this. thing, and like, dude, just calm down and enjoy this thing.
Yeah,
And same thing
just
with those
enjoy
people
the
that
movie.
test food for a living, that taste food for a living.
All right.
Yeah, you can hear me, right?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah.
Yeah, the writings, it's changing, but it's even like even more important, day in day out, right?
I
Because
think
now
so.
that,
Yeah.
yeah, in the past you could write stuff even before ChatGPT. There's so many things you could write, and then you could give an excuse that, oh, I do write. But most of those things now you can just give ChatGPT to do it for you. So there's really nothing to like even give you the time to actually sit down and say, oh, no, did I say this? No, no, scrap that out. That wasn't what I was thinking. This is what I actually meant. And yeah, it's not there anymore. And sooner
Yeah.
or later, if care is not taken, we might even forget how to think.
Well, and you know that's so important, especially with AI now. Is it's so easy to offload your thinking to a machine, and I feel like that's a dangerous thing to do.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm, because again, I don't want my brain and my mind to atrophy. I don't want my critical thinking skills to go down the toilet, right? Like I want to be a smart and a wise person. So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And no, don't get me wrong. Of course, I want knowledge. I want those stuff. But we need to be, in a world where there are answers, the world belongs to those who are bold enough and willing to ask the questions. And we can't do that if we always hopping from one thing to another when we don't actually have time to say, okay, yeah, what's going on? What am I even thinking right now?
Yeah, I agree 100%.
Oh, now that you've been working with a lot of persons, I just want to know, like, what would you say is like the core thing you notice about, good, I want to say good writing, but I'll just say good content, versus the other type of, nah, boring content.
I think this is a big thing in our culture right now, and I think a lot of us are searching for authenticity. We
What
want
does that
real.
what
I
does
don't
that
want
even mean? I've heard that word so
it
many
means
times. I don't even know
real.
what it
Yeah.
means.
Here's how I define it. I want what I read, and for that matter, the music I hear and the movies I watch. Like, I want it to be real. I want it to come from real people. I don't want it to be perfect because the imperfection is what makes it human. Um, so I don't want to read a a grammatically perfect blog post that doesn't make me feel anything. I want to read something like I want to listen to your podcast wisdom so that I can connect with you, not a machine version of you or not a perfected version of you. You. That's what I mean by authenticity. So yeah, I think that's what makes good writing is when you sit down and you read, whether it's a blog post or a book or an email, and you walk away and you're like, yeah, that's them. I just got to grow in my relationship with this author or with this content person, whoever it is, with this podcaster. I feel like I've learned something. I've walked away with something. I know this person better. There's that relational aspect. So that's what I mean by authenticity. Just the willingness to be real and imperfect, and it's okay. That's what
If
I want.
if if I understand you correctly, what you're saying is that we should stop trying to create content. Instead, we should be the content.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. You are what I heard this. I didn't. I'm stealing this. This is not mine, but I believe it's true. You are what differentiates your company. Like
Yeah.
wisdom, you are what differentiates your podcast. So lean into that. Lean into you because you are an amazing person.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
I believe that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. Because right now, yeah, and still takes us back to thinking and writing, because the thing with I think there's this time where I had this advice, quote unquote, writing advice that I can't remember the comedian. Is it Jerry Seinfeld or something like that? I don't know
Yeah,
if you know.
yeah. Jerry
Yeah,
Seinfeld. Yeah.
that he was like, he wrote a joke every day, something like that,
Hmm.
and the goal was never miss a day. And what that does to you is that if your goal was every day you're going to write a joke every day, what you notice that you start paying attention to when people laugh. You just see someone laughing, like, oh, what happened? Why are you laughing? What's funny? What was the joke? And every time you like, you would start noticing how often people laugh around you. Oh, this thing happens, something funny happened, and because you want to do that stuff, and it gets you to notice the thing. Otherwise, you don't really pay attention to the stuff and all that. And same thing with storytelling. If your goal was that every day I was going to write a story about myself or what happened that day, or something I remembered, guess what? You're going to go through the day noticing things. I say, yeah, yeah. The man called me stupid. Yeah, that's a pretty funny experience. I should write that down. Yeah, it just changes the way you see things, the way you approach things. And now, if you're going through a really difficult situation, you're like, yeah, this will make for a really good story. I tell them that I tried 15 times. 15 times is not good enough. Let's do this thing 20 more times. Let's do it 100 more times so that it will make the story really, really nice. I mean, it makes it really, really fun because now instead of complaining that, oh, I tried it 15 times, it didn't work. Like, no, let's do 100 times so that when I tell the story that I did 101 times and you have all your receipts to prove that you did it 101 times and nobody can challenge you, and people are like, oh, the guy is crazy. They don't really understand the way you're saying things because now you're like, I'm writing my story, right? Like you're literally writing your story. So you're like, okay, how do I want this chapter to be like? Do I want this chapter to be that, okay, when this thing happened, I quit? No, no, no. That story is not interesting. So let's try 20 more times. That's a pretty interesting story. Like it's an
that
active
is
stuff
really
and
good
it changes
advice.
everything. Yeah.
Yeah, that is really good advice.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, thank you so much, Don. I know the intention when I booked was like, oh, we're going to chat about proofreading, writing, and all those business and all the stuff. And then I was like, no, let's just chat. Let's just chat.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, I hope I gave you, I hope that I gave you a little bit of value. I know you gave me a lot of value, so I appreciate it.
Yeah, that means a lot. I noticed that it's the episodes. I think I don't know, but there's a peculiarity of podcast that is different from every form of content, and that is people can just have a conversation and put it out there. Now, other pieces of content, yeah, I mean, YouTube videos usually is polished, the script and all the stuff. I mean, writing, yeah, I mean, you edit all those things
Yeah.
and it's there. It's different. Like the podcast is the only medium where it's like when people think of podcast, what they usually think of is two guys
Here we
just
are.
chatting. Yeah, just chatting. Yeah, and yeah, and that for me is like the best form of content for people to like show their personality, for people to actually, because right now this is the closest thing would have to listening on two friends having a conversation
Yeah.
about the stuff we like. That's why they're
Yeah.
friends in the first place.
Yeah. The only thing that would make this better is if somehow we could share a coffee together. So
Ooh,
figure that
yeah,
out and we'll have
yeah.
something.
Yeah, that'd be nice. I mean, we could work on the logistics. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Have a coffee and then, yeah, we'll get there. Yeah,
We'll get there.
we'll
I
get
like
there.
it.
Maybe, I don't know. But I don't want to give a number. Let me give a number. Okay. Let's say maybe maybe when should we expect you to be back on the podcast?
I don't know, man. Anytime you want, you ask and I'll come.
Okay. I'll take that as a blank check. If you ask, I'll be there. Okay.
All right.
Maybe
Sounds like a plan.
when you do ask, even if we can't afford to do coffee, we can do water. I mean, yeah, start with what we have.
All right. Yeah.
You
Or we'll
fetch
just, yeah.
you fetch. Yeah, I don't know if maybe tap water. I don't know the water you drink, and then I get my own water, and we just. I mean, let's start from there, and then eventually
All right.
coffee and all that. Yeah.
All right. Deal.
Yeah. Thank you so much for making it easy to chat with you. And yeah, I'm going to ask, where can listeners learn more about you and what you do?
Yeah, there's two places. You can go to my website, which is cedarpressproofreading.com. And that's if you want to learn how all about editing and writing and all that. And then I think there's a link to my podcast there as well. And then if you want to connect with me personally, you can go over to LinkedIn and you can just look up my name, Jon Clemens, or look up Cedar Press Proofreading. I'm sure I'll come up either way. So those are the two best places to learn about me and get a hold of me.
For for the people listening right now that they're like, I'm just interested in your podcast. I don't want to do those stuff. What's the name of your podcast?
Yeah, no problem. It's Content Creators Unite. It's on YouTube. It's on Apple Podcasts. It's on Spotify. It's on all of the podcast places. So
Okay.
Content Creators Unite.
Okay. Thank you so much for sharing that with us, and thank you so much for taking out your time to chat with us. And thank you so much for having a nice background for the YouTube video. Yeah.
You're
Unlike
welcome.
mine. Yeah, thank you so much. I'm going to stop the recording. Thank you for listening to Wisdom Journey, the podcast for content creators. If today's episode sparked ideas, subscribe and leave a review. Share it with a fellow creator who might benefit. Check the show notes for links and resources. If you'd like to support the show, buy me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/wisdomhq. Follow us on social media to stay connected. Until next time, keep creating and seeking wisdom in your journey.